And Kwanjenga in Embakasi South constituency resulted in voter suppression to the detriment of the petitioners in petition number E005 of 2022. The evidence that we rely upon for this is also in the affidavit of Celestina Nyango, Arnold Oginga, and the affidavit of Ezra Sunguti, who was an agent of the petitioners in petition number E005 of 2022. My ladies and my lords, the first complaint and the issue in this matter is that the elections, first of all, were cancelled only in the strongholds of the first petitioner. That is the consistent theme with all the counties or constituencies where the elections were cancelled. Therefore, as the election started, the first petitioner did not start equally with the first respondent. Ezra Sunguti deposed in his affidavit that polling stations did not open at the stations where he was manning as late as 1 p.m. due to failure of KIMS kits. One of the questions that we want to ask, because consistently the KIMS kits appeared to have failed in the same region, in the strongholds of the first petitioner. It cannot be coincidental that only faulty KIMS kits were sent to the petitioners' strongholds. Ezra Sunguti also testifies in his affidavit that polling started at 2 p.m. and was not extended beyond 6 p.m., despite starting 6 hours later than when the polls were supposed to open. The effects of this: one, the time was not compensated. Two, by the time polling was starting, voters had left. The disabled, the elderly, and therefore the turnout in those polling stations was affected. This particular evidence has not been controverted by the respondents. On that ground, again, we submit that the cancellation of the vote in those particular areas suppressed the voter turnout, and this can be seen by looking at the voter turnout in those constituencies as compared to the voter turnout in neighboring counties or neighboring constituencies. we find that there is a vote differential of about 4% or 5% when you compare the turnout in the areas where the election was cancelled and areas where the election was not cancelled. My ladies and my lords, we also consider that the cancellation of the votes of the election in the strongholds of the first petitioner was deliberate because the reasons given by the IBC or the chairperson are not borne out by the statutory provisions for cancellation of the election. We have also sought to corroborate this evidence with the evidence provided by Irene Masit, who is a commissioner, who testifies at paragraph 26 of her affidavit that the reason why the votes or the election was cancelled in those areas was because the commission procured the wrong ballot papers. This is a mistake that Irene Masit, a commissioner...
May I, please, may I, with your very kind permission, Chief Justice, draw the attention of the court that there may be on record more than one affidavit by Ms. Masit, to the extent that the affidavit that my learned colleague refers to is an affidavit filed by the petitioner. We have no objection. However, to the extent that that is an affidavit filed in the documents by Issa Mansu, whose documents our understanding of yesterday's ruling is, were struck out by the court alongside his notice of appearance, then there ought not to be a reference to that affidavit.
Yes, I think counsel clarified the affidavit she is referring to.
I will clarify to that. Sorry. My lady, I hope the time will be restored to me. My learned senior.
There is an error that was stated by my colleague, Professor Githu Muigai. The ruling by this honorable court struck out the notice of appointment of Advocate Bahisa, not anything else. That is what I heard with my own ears.
If I may please interrupt you
Counsel,
yet again.
please, without wasting a lot of time, we are capable of discerning what we meant with our own ruling. Let her identify the affidavit she is referring to, and when you are responding, then you deal with the issues that you are raising.
We appreciate that, my Lady Chief Justice. But I think if we proceed beyond this point without a common understanding by all the advocates as to what was the consequence of striking out the notice of appearance, then many on this side may make reference to those documents filed by Issa Mansu. To my own understanding of the law, once the notice of appointment was struck out, all consequential filings based on that were null and void and expunged from the record.
Proceed.
My ladies and my lords, that issue can be put to rest very simply. The affidavit that I refer to by Irene Masit is drawn and filed by MS Muigai and Associates Advocates. I believe each of the commissioners had a right and did appoint their own advocates in response to the petition. And that is what I am referring to. So Malanid Senior is lost on that one. If I may proceed now. My lady, I do refer to the affidavit now of Irene Masit at paragraph 26 of her affidavit, where she depones that the chairperson and the commission secretary and the CEO failed to ensure that due diligence was done on procurement, proofreading, and printing of ballot papers, which is also a process that takes place prior to the general elections, and which in turn affected the elections in the areas that we complain the election was cancelled. She lists it, and for time, I will not refer to them. The averment is that the error on which the IBC relies upon, or the chairperson relies upon, that led to the cancellation of the result, was one of willful neglect. Irene Masit further testifies that there was no meeting as was required to be before the procurement was done, or verification to ensure that they proofread what they had procured. And she also testifies that in practice in 2017, this had been done before to ensure that this mistake does not occur. My ladies and my lords, to the extent that that admission is made by a commissioner, we submit that we are supported or find corroboration to our complaint that the cancellation of the vote in the areas in which we have complained about was deliberate and not accidental. The fifth issue that I deal with was whether there were